Actually, as we were driving in this morning, we were talking of just standing in a supermarket and being present, and how illustrative it is of the human condition. We're just standing in this busy street, just being present. I do recommend it. We referred to this yesterday also. If you want to understand what humanity is or isn't, just try standing still in a crowd and observing people and seeing how many people are even remotely present. No wonder Jesus talks of the lost sheep. And so as a help to not getting too far away from presence, it's a very good idea to punctuate your day with frequent pauses, frequent little remembrances. Remember, reconnect, and this instant help is present. I am with you. I am present. But we need to sort of train our wayward minds to obey and to be present. This is the reason for discipline and good practice, good habits. Yes, dear, have that ambition. Don't be afraid of it, dear. It takes great courage sometimes because the world's full of opposition, you see. Also, the world will come up with all sorts of reasons not to. Impediments in every way. Powers of darkness, you see, try to pull you away. So you need to be strong, determined. Well, we start from where we are, and we're all little children in a way starting this journey, and a little child's only got so much power, really, hasn't he? But we do our best. And gradually you sort out the wheat from the chaff. And the way becomes clearer. It may take many years. That probably go on developing all your life. But no doubt it will. I'm still growing, dear. I'm still like a child. Coming home. That's what it is, really. Coming home. Back where we belong, in the arms of love. Do you remember the story of the prodigal son from the Bible? That says it all, doesn't it? Applies to each of us, of course. We wander off into a far country and waste our substance in riotous living. And then a very, very interesting phrase. Do you remember? He says, he was feeding the pigs, wasn't he? And he came to his senses. There in the scripture, came to his senses, came to common sense. What on earth am I doing here? Lost, absent from home, absent from Father's house. So he started the journey, and then what happened? Do you remember? Father came running, didn't he, to meet him with open arms. Come, my beloved son. That's us, dear, that's us, each one of us. We're frightened at first. We get into trouble, aren't we, when we go home? We prepare a speech. But Father brushes all that aside when the time comes. Never mind. Yes, dear, be ambitious in that way. Reach for the stars. Yes, that's a good thing to do. Don't mess about with that. When we do, it's trouble. But, think big. Adventure. The great adventure without end. Well, how do we start? Very often with our toys, our childish toys, and then the dog or something, your pet. But then the big choice comes with the young people. So often in the world, they want to find something that interests them. They end up with something that doesn't. It's a lucky few who do find work that they love. But it's a blessing if you do, if you can find that. I was one of the lucky ones. I just loved farming and was a farmer and never thought of it as work at all. It was a labour of love all my life. Just loved it, loved the animals, loved the earth, loved work. Count my blessings, I was lucky. So love grows. You start of loving one person and then maybe that doesn't work out as you think and you love another one. You probably end up with a lot of people you've loved in your life and you're not quite sure. Then maybe they all merge into one somewhere along the line, and well, it gets a bit confusing, doesn't it? Sometimes you might sit in a room like this and you love first of all one person and then another, and then you end up loving everybody. And you're not sure where one ends and the other begins. Seems like a great big ocean, doesn't it? Then you end up loving the carpet and the chairs and the exit sign, and in fact, what isn't loved? Even the plastic blowing in the gutter outside isn't beloved, isn't it? There's nothing that isn't loved, really, but it's a sort of long process from one to the other, and then gradually expanding. But don't ask me to solve love problems, dear. I've had my share. I'm no better at it than you. I suppose the answer to all love problems is to love even more, isn't it? I remember as a young man, I was totally in love with a French girl. And she was a little bit sometimes with me. But she was all my young man's love. I went to Paris one day to see her, and of course she was with another man. I knew she had other men. And I sat in a cafe one day alone in Paris night, sort of unhappy, young man, lonely. And something marvellous happened to me. Somehow love expanded, And I stopped being upset because she was with another man. And I found I could love her even in the arms of another man. Extraordinary, really. I wrote one of my first poems about that. I've never forgotten that experience. And after that, we were never sort of together. But we corresponded for many years, and I knew she had many men. And it didn't sort of shake my love for her. Funny, isn't it? It's a great lesson to me, that. Of course, I can't do it all the time. You want to keep someone you love securely yours, don't you? Last thing you want is have another man come in. Big lessons. Once we start thinking about something and asking questions, we tend to want an answer. We tend to want a... Yes, that's it, Michael. You see, you formulate a question, and you want me to formulate an answer in return, don't you? And I'm not sure I can do that, you see. And all I'll offer back is the rather vague thing, is that life is a long process of gradually moving from one understanding to another. And who can tell where along this journey you suddenly understand something, because you think you understand today and you don't tomorrow. I mean, it's a pretty vague thing, isn't it? You know, again, I forget what we were talking about at breakfast, but something like this. And, you know, at what point did your hair start to grow grey? Well, when we started to get middle-age spread, or, you know, difficult to say, isn't it? You know, your friends can say, when you haven't seen someone for 5 years, they'll come and say, "Oh, you've got fatter or something," or your hair's gone grey. But we don't, hardly aware of it, are we? So this whole thing of spiritual answers, dear, I think is like that, really. How do we learn acceptance? I think we start from the day we're born, don't we? And still, you don't go on till your dying day. I think life itself is the teacher, isn't it? I'm sure that's why. Again, why does most merciful God ordain that we have 80-odd years of schooling in this vale of tears? I feel life is just a school, really. And life itself is the teacher. And life experiences that we each have are exactly what we need to be called home, just like the prodigal son. In fact, I look back on my life and I feel that everything, just like this girl in Paris, you know, everything was just exactly the lesson I needed to know. And all my endless sagas of love problems. Do you know, all my books are really love stories. They are. If anyone is interested to read them, they're all just love stories. Not all about love of, well, mostly, well, not all about God, but love of everything, really. Love of my farm, love of places I've been, love of Russia. Yes, they're all just lessons in love, really. Yes, and all the books, well, I suppose the books too have been part of the lesson, haven't they? The learning. Very good, dear. You see how precious questions are. You see. So do please, if you wouldn't mind sharing whatever's floating through your minds. It's very helpful. You see, it's like you've got your own inner gravity, you know. It's like a magnet, dear. Your own heart will reassert itself, like a compass coming back to the focus. But you see, the lovers amongst us, see what happens? The opposite of love, you see, is the deepest darkness. The greatest lovers suffer most. Because we can't avoid this. In our human condition, we can't avoid slipping back, or the opposite. So it's a feature of great love, great suffering. And you describe it as the heart closing. Well, it may appear in different ways, but certainly you find the heart does close. And that's why lovers can often hate. You know. And if you think of well, obviously, you know, I think the Irish aren't so far from the Russians in many ways. It's both an emotive temperament, isn't it? A lot of heart here. And see, heart can turn cruel. They can be. The Russians are capable of the greatest love and the greatest cruelty. The two go together. It's just a fact. The brightest light creates the darkest shadow, doesn't it? That's how it is. But hopefully as we progress, less, more light, less dark. So be of good heart, dear, and it's part of the process. Yes, I know those of you that have watched my videos, many times I've illustrated sin as you look towards the light and your face is in shed light, turn away and we're in darkness, you see. This is my rather childish way of explaining sin, but I think it's fairly accurate, really. See, we turn, just like, if I remind you, you come back to presence, and then imperceptibly, without realizing, we slip away from it, don't we? It's almost impossible to maintain it. So it needs long practice to even more or less maintain it. In the moments when we're really present are few and far between. So it is with great love. We talked yesterday of guilt, didn't we? And these times when the heart is closed, it can be tormenting, can't it? You feel such a failure. My fault, I'm failing some way. You see, Jesus came to pay the price of sin. It makes sense, doesn't it, in this context? We, all of us, have to bear this to some extent. The price of sin, the price of being absent, you see, from the presence, which infects not only me, but it infects our families, it affects the whole world. This is the poison, the only real poison. It's not plastic or chemicals. It's me. It's this poison in our hearts. So another word for this work is purification of the heart. The less of me, the less of... Gradual work. One lesson after the other, day by day. This sort of music is so full of heart, isn't it? No wonder you love it. and just behind your back there's a picture, there's a statue of the Holy Mother. You know, this is, says everything, doesn't it? She on one side and the cross on the other.